Some video makers like to make videos in their cars when they want to make a quick or cheap one. I don't have a car, so here I am on my bike. The final results come on 12th of July. This is only an early draft, but it's almost certain the true results are on these ideas. This is the new political map of UK that voters really chose to have for 5 years at least. For context, if you put them in lines, longer lines equals more seats, this is what it looks like. Labour has more seats than all the other parties combined. Labour has roughly 2/3 of seats. If you remove the winner, this is how the runner-up lines compare with each other. Conservatives have barely more than all lower rankers combined. And about elections, and this applies to any election in any country, and that is the chance of a civil war. I don't think it's very high this year, even compared to any other election. But everyone bear in mind that during an election and after an election, all it really takes for a civil war is for the last party who's getting replaced to refuse to give up their power. Or in this case, for the head of state to refuse to appoint the new prime minister. It can happen. It's not very likely to happen, but either way, just double check your bug-out bag, double check your survival plan, think what you will do in a civil war situation. Will you pick a side? Will you pick neither side? Just make sure you've got your answers for when the questions come. Chances of Scottish independence are lower than they've been in a while, but just because SNP, who wants independence, lost a lot, doesn't mean the people of Scotland have changed their mind. I believe the biggest reason SNP has lost a lot is because they kept repeating and failing to get their independence, and First Ministers kept resigning. Then the subject stopped, then it came back, then that First Minister resigned. It's just as likely that Scotland is choosing a different way to independence because of a loss of faith in method, not change of heart. But if I was forced to bet now, I think Scotland is going to get independence last out of the three, because at this time it's behind North Ireland and Wales. On the note of SNP's losses though, there's only two parties that I know of that have had big losses, and that is the Conservatives, also known as Tories, and the SNP. And they've both got some reasons for some losses. But let's have a look at the fractions. The Tories have lost, was it three quarters of their size, and the SNP lost roughly 4/5. That's a bigger fraction. So SNP has, by fraction compared to their original size, lost more than the Conservatives did. I work with the news a lot, I deliver newspapers, so I know that the SNP got in some trouble because of all the delays with the referendum. Then there was there was 600 grand of money lost, and people didn't really like that. But is everything that the SNP has done really worse than lockdowns? I mean, why did the SNP have to lose more than the Conservatives had to lose? After every of the horrible things that the Conservatives have done, these are not the numbers that are deserved. Wales is having a rise in a different list of parties compared to England. Its own Plaid Cymru has grown. Other than that, it has a green, which is very rare in the rest of Britain. You can see a big difference on the map. All it takes for Wales to want independence is for those two parties to keep growing in it and keep kicking out the general British ones. I think the chance of Welsh independence in the next 100 years is very high unless this trend changes. But if one place is going to get independence, it's North Ireland. What words can I write that speak louder than the map? I don't see anything in North Ireland that's also in Britain, or the other way around. If I didn't know enough, and I saw the maps separately, I would think they were already different countries. The question isn't will they declare independence, it's will they declare it now? North Ireland. If I were you, I would ask, what does Britain offer me that's worth following in their completely different direction? If I were you, I would declare independence as soon as possible. Labour won. What words can I say about that I haven't already made clear or that aren't obvious? I put into words how I felt about this whole election in general. Upset, annoyed, disappointed, disgusted, and outraged. So Labour won. I guess people have just forgotten the last time they're in power and forgotten the history of that party. People seem to think that getting rid of gay marriage and having civil partnerships instead, if even that good, is good enough for the future. Every election is a chance to make a big change. You had your chance. It wasn't my fault. I voted Green. It was the fault of everyone who voted Labour. And there was even some blame in people who voted for other things. You had your choice, and you chose wrong. Other things in the points. About Labour winning, I think that by the time I finish talking about the Tories, it'll be very clear what I think of Labour. So let's just go to the next point. Labour has a secret deal with the MI6. Next point. What I really hoped for from this election was the Conservatives to be wiped out forever, in the same way that the Liberal Democrats were wiped out 102 years ago. They haven't had a Prime Minister since then. We didn't get that. Let's give you a bit of context. In 2010, Labour came third. It ended up in a coalition between Conservatives and Liberal Democrats. And 14 years later, Labour's now back at the first place. So coming third isn't necessarily enough to wipe out a party. The Conservatives came second. I was hoping they'd get fourth or worst. I was hoping they'd get as little as possible, if even anything at all, and that's not what happened. They came second by a very, very long way. The third place could double their score and still not beat the Conservatives, not even close. Your options were change permanently, forever, a different set of parties, get rid of the old ones, stop forgiving them for their history and for everything else they've done wrong, and instead, it's just ping pong again. It's one party, then the second party, then the first party again, then the second one, over and over and over, like a game of ping pong. You've got yourself stuck in a cycle that really you should know how to get yourself unstuck from. Just like you did with the Liberal Democrats 102 years ago. As it stands, lockdown has not been avenged. The message to all the parties in the country is, lockdowns get forgiven, and lockdowns don't give your party consequences, nor does anything else that the Conservatives are guilty of. It shows that people don't really care about what's fair, they don't care about what's just, they don't care about what's smart, they don't care about what's ethical. And to the point, Tories are not defeated, they're not going anywhere. We're still in the same cycle and we haven't got the change that really we should all want and were able to get if we had just put our votes to it. By my best guess, still strong in second place. Within 20 years, the Conservatives are going to have another Prime Minister. Okay, yes, mathematically, there is a chance that of all the people who didn't vote Conservatives, there's a 100% chance they will never vote for them. Meanwhile, with the other parties, of all the people who didn't vote for them, there's a higher chance that they will one day vote for them. And yes, maths on its own is never really enough to give you the complete conclusion. But maths on its own can tell you that Tories have come second place, they're still very strong, definitely compared to all but one party, by far. And they haven't gone anywhere. A chance was given, a chance was wasted. It's ping pong again. They're as strong as they've ever been. Tories have had big amounts of time when they've not been dominant, and they've always come back, and this is just another one of those dormant times before they come back. They're not dead. Next point. The Conservatives are working with the MI6. Next point. I voted Green. Bear in mind that parties like Plaid Cymru, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I don't speak Welsh, Sinn Fein, I don't speak Irish, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, DUP, and there were some others, and the independent options. I didn't have those options. All I had was the 5 that I talked about in the last video, and I voted Green. And they came 9th and 10th. I say 9th and 10th because there were a bunch of ties, and Plaid Cymru and Green both got 9th and 10th with 4 seats. So for Green, that is quadruple the last score. They only had 1 last time. This time they got 4, which definitely is a valid step forward. But it's nowhere near what it should have been. I mean, when Tories and Labour are getting hundreds and Liberal Democrats are getting above 60, 4 is smaller than the least bad party should be. Although, don't just judge a party by its size, judge it by if it's growing or shrinking. And growing is probably the only positive thing that we can actually feel from this. A bunch of parties that are not the big 2 horrible ones are growing, and that's at least some sort of less bad news. I'm not saying they're good parties, I'm just saying they're less bad. There's no good news in any of this. It's all just which of these nightmares is the least bad news. And I think Green and a bunch of other small parties growing is the least bad news. What else have I got here? I believe that's it for this country this time. I will see you in the French election reaction video. I will then of course see you in the USA election videos. And, of course, I will see you in the apocalypse. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this or found it helpful, then click like and comment so I know to make more of this. If you want to see more, click my channel name or icon for more. I will see you next time. And subscribe to survive.